Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of the FitFam. This is Hilary, Miss Olympia.
And this is Doug, the Formulator.
And today we're going to be talking about a subject that, I think most people don't understand the severity of this condition and everything that it comprises as far as how many diseases and things like that. And I think it's going to be really eye-opener for people.
Yeah, it's kind of we're zeroing in on a subject today, so that's kind of cool. Today we're talking about autoimmune diseases, and they are the fastest rising set of diseases in the world. And the reason we say set is because it incorporates a number of different diseases, all with the same issue.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that's really the key is autoimmune disease. And you're going to be surprised at some of the diseases that are autoimmune diseases.
I was.
But let's start with what it is.
Okay.
And really, it's what makes it tough because it's an illness that occurs when the body tissues are attacked by its own immune system. So instead of your white blood cells going and attacking an invader, it's attacking itself, thinking that your tissues and different organs in that are
the invader.
The pathogen, right? And so that's what makes it tough. And so it's a complex disease because depending on what tissue the body's attacking will determine how to go after it. But hopefully after this, you'll understand it and know what to do.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about autoimmune diseases, and let me kind of explain the definition a little bit more. Is that okay? And then you can maybe tell about some of them.
Yeah.
So let's say, for example, that some type of pathogen, some type of chemical or whatever it might be in the world gets into the body, and it just happens to resemble one of your tissues, maybe some of the same structure, the way things are bound together, the amino acid structure, whatever it might be. And the body starts attacking that, sending the white blood cells out. And if you keep putting it in or it keeps coming into the system over and over again, the body keeps making more white blood cells. And it's kind of like an army where the old members of the army kind of been around, they know what to do and they know the difference between different things, the enemy and different things. And yet the new guys are just all gung-ho and they're going after anything that, looks even close to what they were told to go after. And that's what happens. Your immune system keeps making more white blood cells, and they're programmed to go attack this invader. But if that invader, again, resembles a tissue, an organ, a cell in the body, then many times those new guys, the new white blood cells, will start attacking those tissues, thinking they're going after what they were programmed to go after. That's where the problem lies in the body. And when that builds up over time, then we're in trouble. And the body's just attacking itself.
That's a great analogy for that.
A little story.
Yeah, I liked it. So let me just mention some of the autoimmune diseases that most of us are fairly aware of. So there's multiple sclerosis, fibromyalgia, psoriasis, celiac disease, rheumatoid arthritis. I think those ones are, you hear them more often than not.
Absolutely. And I think one of the biggies that people might not understand is type 1 diabetes.
Yeah, for sure.
The body's attack and stuff. And we'll actually go into that example of how that actually is created. One of the ways it's created, I think the main way that it's created when it's not from birth. And so those are some of the autoimmune diseases, but really there are tons of them, right?
Yeah.
And so we'll go into maybe some of the others that some people might be a little bit familiar with, lupus, things like that. But we'll go through them. Let's kind of back up a little bit and talk about what's happened in the last 10 or 15 years.
Okay. So up until 10 years ago, we didn't have detailed statistics of how bad the epidemic was, unless you were one of the 23.5 million Americans who suffer from an autoimmune disease.
Right. And you think about it, 300 million in America-ish. And, you have now it's even above that, 25 million people that have an autoimmune disease. That's a big deal.
That's a big deal.
And the National Institutes of Health released a report, and they listed just 100 autoimmune diseases. There's more of them, but they listed 100 autoimmune diseases and said that they are rising faster than any other group of diseases or conditions in the world, like you had mentioned. And it was also mentioned in this report that it felt like, according to the National Institute of Health report, and they're right, that no one's going after the cause. They're trying to treat the symptoms. And that's kind of what Western medicine is, right? Just treating the symptoms instead of going after the cause. And so
Autoimmune diseases or disease patients on average see 6 different doctors before being diagnosed with the correct disease.
And that's what's crazy, right?
That is crazy.
It used to be a lot of the autoimmune diseases, the medical association didn't even say were real. Like
Yeah.
fibromyalgia is a thing that's made up, right? All these different things, and you heard that. I remember in the 90s that people would come in and have all these serious symptoms, and they say, yeah, but my medical doctor at clinic told me that there is no such thing as fibromyalgia and all this.
And
yet,
being told that they're hypochondriacs, and how frustrating that is to be dealing with such severe side effects and then to be told you're just a hypochondriac.
yeah, it's all in your head, right?
Oh,
and the thing
terrible.
is it's pretty sad because 45% of all patients have been labeled as hypochondriacs in the early stages of diagnosis. In other words, once they were diagnosed and knew for sure that they had this autoimmune condition, almost half of them had already gone through being told
Yeah.
that there's hypochondriac. But really, it majorly affects women more than men.
Yeah, and being told it's like on average 5 years of being misdiagnosed or told you're a hypochondriac before it's actually diagnosed correctly.
That's a crazy number.
That is a long time.
Yeah, and so that isn't a number Hilary just threw out. That was in the National Institute of Health report, that it took on average 5 years for a woman to actually get the proper diagnosis. So that many years of pain, being told they're hypochondriac.
It's all in your head.
And all that. So it's a real serious situation. Luckily, I think we've come a long ways.
I think so too.
That these conditions now have been accepted and understood, and we can test for them
Right.
and that. So, autoimmune disease is so serious now. We always talk about, we do people's blood work and stuff. I always put the markers on top when we make our report that show the things that really give you a risk of heart disease.
Right.
And because it's the number one killer, number one cause of disability today. But really, the autoimmune diseases are starting to pass that up.
That's so wild.
I mean, it's more likely now for you to suffer from autoimmune disease than it is to get heart disease or cancer. That's crazy. That's crazy.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, that's all right. And so we made some notes for this because this is such an important topic, and we wanted to be able to get statistics right. We don't want this just to be a podcast of talking about different things. And
Yeah, this one's full of statistics.
Yeah, accurate numbers and that. And what's interesting is the average autoimmune disease, and understand there's different autoimmune diseases. Some of them are so severe they take people's life quickly, and others it's just a pain in their side forever, and maybe not cause too much of what they think is an issue because they're living with it. But on average, autoimmune disease cuts 15 years off of your life, and that's a lot.
That is a lot.
And the thing is that we all have people, loved ones that we wish were here one more minute, one more day. To think 15 years, that's crazy. But on top of that, it lowers the quality of life way before that, and many times that's, I don't want to say even more, but just as drastic and hard on people, because it comes back to our saying about being present. One of the greatest blessings in life is to be able to be present in other people's lives, and with the children and with work and the hobbies and your loved ones and all of that. So it's really, I think, a key factor with it. And so we talked about it being one of the fastest rising pathogens, pathological conditions in the world today. But let's maybe name some of the others that people
Okay,
might not
so
be
here's a few more. Graves' disease, Hashimoto's, thyroiditis.
You know about that one?
We know about that one.
We should probably go into that in a minute. Hilary had Hashimoto's.
Yeah.
Okay?
Lupus,
Absolutely.
type 1 diabetes, like you mentioned.
Yeah, rheumatoid arthritis. That's a biggie too. People don't realize many times that rheumatoid arthritis is an autoimmune disease. The body's attacking itself with that.
Yeah.
And then, of course,
Celiac disease, but we already discussed that.
yeah. And what is celiac disease? So, these autoimmune diseases, I think is really important to understand, is the different pathogen, the thing that's causing it, about going after the cause, depending on what it is, will determine the autoimmune disease. And that will really come apparent to you here by the end of this podcast. So, for example, gluten. If they can't digest gluten and that gets in the body and the body starts attacking its own cell linings, there's a lot of factors involved with the processing of foods now, and that all of a sudden this fastest rising set of diseases, autoimmune disease, there's a reason that they're the fastest rising.
And the gluten is the celiac disease.
Yeah, and so the thing is that people don't a lot of times take a look and say, well, what in the world's changed, consistently got worse and worse and worse, that, corresponds and lines actually up with this rise in autoimmune disease. And it's actually the increase of processed food, eating of fast food, and that in our diet. So
and with more of these that we go through, you'll be able to see that even
100%,
more glaringly.
100%. Yeah. So out of this list, we're looking at this list of over the 100 that was reported by the National Institute of Health, and see if any of these, pop up. So there's a lot of things like autoimmune myocarditis, right? Pancreatitis, retinopathy, hepatitis, so, of the liver, of the heart, of the eyes. A lot of these autoimmune diseases can affect separate organs in the body, and I think that's important to understand. Addison's disease, man, we can spend all day on this. So we talked
Page
about
after
fibromyalgia.
page.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
And so I think that it's just important to know that everything, even narcolepsy and a lot of things, multiple sclerosis, I don't know if we mentioned that, myasthenia gravis, juvenile arthritis, a lot of these things are a major factor in people's lives that they're just like, oh, I have it, and they just think there's something they just need to deal with, that they're told there's no cure for these. And we're going to hopefully give some hope that there is many times cures for a lot of these.
Absolutely. So it's reported that there can be multiple causes of autoimmune diseases, but research shows that there's two main culprits.
Yeah, and we focus in on this, and I catch some heat once in a while for this, because remember, one of our main jobs is to train doctors around the nation to be holistic and how to treat different conditions. And so we have to narrow down to help create this understanding of the main things you want to look for when you're trying to help people with autoimmune disease, because there's very few things out there that help you go after the cause. And that's really the key. And as Hilary said, we looked at, and based on the research, there's two main culprits. One of them was the non-digestion of foods, mainly proteins in the body. The non-digestion of proteins, different proteins in the body.
But not just food proteins.
Exactly. So viruses are proteins, right? So foods and viruses. And then
heavy metal toxicity in foods or from the environment.
Yeah, so environmental is a big factor there. So we're talking like mercury, heavy metals, things like that, causing autoimmune disease, and that can be a big deal. Mercury is one of the big factors, rheumatoid arthritis, things like that. And so we're going to look at some of these things that might be in your life that you might want to get rid of that can, not every time, but can cause autoimmune disease. And let me explain why I say can, because we actually have a genetic bucket, if you would, that we have our genes and our genetics, and where the deficiencies lie in that bucket really are determined on the individual. But I might be able to handle a little bit more mercury in my life before that bucket overfills and I get rheumatoid arthritis versus someone else because of whatever genetic factor, or vice versa. So we have to be careful with this. You're like, well, I know this person that did this their whole life and they didn't have a problem. And we can't play that game because everyone's an individual, and it's just good to know what things can cause autoimmune disease and really look at trying to get rid of or eliminate most of those things in your life, because you probably don't know where your bucket's at.
Yeah, so the inability to digest proteins really explain to us the importance of enzymes. Let's get down to it.
So since protein is one of the main factors with autoimmune disease from food, and you mentioned viruses, the inability to digest those proteins is a big factor. So let's break it down for you really quick. So we have a protein. And a protein, and we mentioned, I think, in Nutrition 101 podcast, and a protein is basically 100 amino acids or more. Some people believe 49 or more, but it's just, let's just say 100 to make it easy. So if you have 100 amino acids or more bound together, that's a protein. If you have less than that, it's called a peptide. And then you can have a single amino acid, right? Or a bi or tri amino acid, 1, 2, or 3. But everything in between there are peptides. And if we take in a protein and it gets broken down to a peptide, but it doesn't get broken down all the way to the single amino acid, so it can be absorbed easily into the system, and then the body can build it back. It wants bone, it wants muscle, it wants tissue, it wants whatever. Then if some of those proteins that don't get broke down all the way get in the system and they resemble a tissue in the body, depending on what tissue it resembles, will determine
the
autoimmune disease. And so it's important to know that the research is really strong on showing this, and there's some functionality of proteins in the gastrointestinal system that are a factor with fibromyalgia, and there's a lot of research showing that. They showed that people that are able to break down their proteins better have less risk of autoimmune disease and very specific ones. So let's talk what happens to a protein, like how does it get broken down?
Okay, so you take in a protein. The enzyme protease will help to break that protein down into a peptide. And then the enzyme peptidase, right, will help to break down that peptide further down into an amino acid.
Perfect. That's it. So we need protease and peptidase.
We need protease.
And here's the cool thing is nature already provided it. When you eat raw proteins, they're already in it. When you eat the raw vegetables, the enzymes are different ones called amylase and others are there. They're present. Right?
Anytime we cook something, we destroy the enzymes in it. And most of us are not going to consume raw meat.
Right.
So
tartare.
No.
Okay.
Not for me, anyway. So we do need to make sure that we take those enzymes back to help digest the proteins that we are consuming.
That's it. And we went back, and we go back to the genetic thing. Okay. So think of each of us like a battery. Okay. So with this battery, and over time, that battery gets drained a little bit. And if you use it a lot, it gets drained all the way. So if we abuse protein, let's say someone that eats a lot of meat. I'm not saying which one of us eats the most meat and stuff, professional bodybuilder, but
okay, but let's be clear about the kind of meat that I eat lean turkey and I eat fish and I eat chicken breast.
Yeah, so if you eat
that's
meat,
a lot different than eating cow, which I have sometimes.
So basically, if you eat cooked meat, right? And so if you eat more meat.
Yes, I do
right?
eat more meat. Yes, for sure.
And so over time, her body's using up all the protease and peptidase enzymes. Okay, and your body's supposed to use the protease and peptidase enzymes mainly to help you heal and cut down inflammation. That's why you can get hurt when you're young and heal really quick. Over time, you use up a lot of those enzymes that the body uses to block prostaglandins and to lower inflammation, and to do it on its own. Now, if the body says, "Look, we've got to decide between digesting that protein and helping fight, inflammation," it's got to pick and choose.
Yeah.
And so if the inflammation that causing, is going to cause a major disease and death, it probably might let that go a bit. It's going to focus on the protein or vice versa. But why should we give the body, have to make that choice? Why should we make it, be like that? We need to make sure that the enzymes are up. But we all abuse them. We've all eaten cooked and processed food, right? And so once we understand protein gets broken down to a peptide, to amino acids, and it's those peptides, if they're the wrong structure and you keep giving it to the body, remember your body right away is going to say, oh, that peptide, that's just a foreign invader, we're going to go attack it. Usually doesn't have a problem. Most people don't get autoimmune disease from one impact of this protein hitting their system. It's abuse over time. Okay, and so the body normally protects itself with the white blood cells. So the white blood cells come in, think of them as Pac-Man.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
And they'll come in and they'll fight that protein that didn't get broken down all the way, called a peptide maybe. Okay, and it didn't get broken down all the way. And sometimes we need to talk about peptides because peptides can be are very good, right?
Yeah.
I kind of give
this
wrong impression about peptide. I'm a huge peptide fan. We'll have a peptide thing. But just it's amino acid blend, and that amino acid blend in the body uses peptides for everything, for growth hormone and healing and all this stuff to signal the body. But if they're not the right amino acids, okay, if it's a wrong structure of amino acids bound together, then that can cause a problem. And the white blood cell's job is to come in and say, hey, you know what? This peptide doesn't belong here. It's an antigen, right? It's foreign. We're going to attack it. And so let's go to like the best example we can think of for people to understand autoimmune diseases.
Go for it.
Okay. And so which one are we going to hit?
Casein.
All right. So what is casein? Right? A lot of people don't know what casein is, but in milk we have the most popular protein. A lot of people have protein shakes. There's two proteins in milk. One of them is you have it in your protein shakes all the time, right? Whey. And so we have whey protein, and almost everybody, you take whey protein, almost every bodybuilder on the planet does.
I do.
Every person that has shakes do,
yeah.
Right? And so in milk, you have whey as a protein, and then you also have the casein, right? So the two forms of protein. Now, you drink the milk. So growing up, did you guys drink raw milk growing up?
No.
You didn't? Okay.
No.
We did.
My dad did.
Your dad did?
My dad.
Your dad's like, I get the raw milk. You guys have the best.
And not when we were growing up. When my dad was young, he had
raw
milk.
Okay.
We didn't.
I thought he got the raw milk.
No.
That's funny.
I think that's saying you're a little closer to my dad's age. A little closer to my age.
So growing up, one of my jobs, we were just looking at pictures the other day. I had this bike I got for Christmas, so excited. One of the first things my dad did is put like a basket on it. Can you imagine that? Boy, excited about his bike, and have a basket. But my job for being able to have the bike was to every morning pedal it up to some neighbors a couple blocks away, the Flakes, and they had a cow, and I'd get the raw milk in a big glass gallon container, and then I'd bring it back. And so that's the basket. And Dad would take the cream off, and we were raised on raw milk. Now, the reason that's important for this discussion is that raw milk has the enzymes, the raw, like we were talking about the raw, right? But that's not how we have milk nowadays. Nowadays, it's kind of messed up.
Yeah, it's been all kinds of processed.
High kinds of processed, homogenized, pasteurized. Basically, Hilary's words about it's just processed, right? It's been destroyed. And what happens is those proteins in that milk, and also to the fats, we're going to stick to the proteins, the whey, and remember the casein, it's very hard for them to digest when you eat processed milk. And so therein lies the problem. So go back to the same thing we're talking about that you'd mentioned with the protein peptide, right?
Yep.
And now your body's trying to break down this protein, this milk. And now it's like breaking it down, it's trying really hard. And all of a sudden, it gets it down to where it's 7 amino acids. So it's not down to the 3 or so, but it's just 7 amino acids. And that's really the key. And the body still absorbs it. And in order for it to absorb it, if your gut was perfect, you wouldn't absorb 7 amino acids bound together.
Okay.
Right? It's supposed to be 1, 2, or 3. 3
Yeah,
max.
3 or less.
Yep.
Okay.
And so we have a leaky gut due to, back to the previous podcast, flora, right? We're big fan of probiotics, and that'll help you not have a leaky gut. But let's say you eat a typical American meal, we don't have enough probiotics, we have a little bit of leaky gut, those 7 amino acids get in from that casein, okay? And it's important because if you take a look under a microscope and you dissect that casein, the structure, right? It's amino acids. So it's like a tyrosine next to proline to glutamine. Basically, all the amino acids you've heard of before, they're bound in a certain way. But
or that you haven't heard of before.
That's true. All amino acids. But if you look at it, it has exact resemblance.
So interesting.
As to the islets, in the pancreas. So basically, where your body makes insulin, that tissue there, it has the exact same amino acid structure as the casein one. It's only broken down to 7 amino acids.
Oh, yeah, that's so crazy.
And they've actually named it now, right? It's called BCM7 because it's so well known, right? And I think it's like bovine cow milk 7. Makes sense. I think that's what it's supposed to be. And so it gets into blood, and the studies are endless on this. So this isn't even like speculation anymore. Is we know that if those 7 amino acids get into the system, start going around, not just once, but remember you drink that milk all the time, every day or every few days of the week, or any other processed dairy.
Right.
All of a sudden, the wise white blood cells go away, right? And you're making the new ones and these younger ones.
Can we kind of hit the fact that I know so many people, they're like, no, I don't drink that much milk. I don't drink that much milk. But then if you get down to it, it's like, well, do you have ice cream? And the answer is yes. Do you eat a lot of cheese? And the answer is yes. Different yogurts, and the answer is yes. So I think people sometimes think because they're not downing gallons and gallons of milk, in their minds they don't have a lot of milk, but their diet is full of milk in different forms.
That's a really good take on it. It's important to understand that. And I think that's one thing Hilary's phenomenal at, to know where all of these things come from and just a regular food. So most of us, we say we're dairy free because we don't drink milk. That's not true. Right. And so in the gut, there is a chemical, it's called zonulin, right? And so zonulin is a chemical that keeps everything tight so that big groups of amino acids past 3 can't get in. But processed foods and low probiotics allow that to get open and allows that BCM7 in there, okay? So what happened with what we just said? You drink processed milk, your body breaks that casein protein, one of the proteins in the milk, down to 7 amino acids. Leaky gut gets into the system. White blood cells go after it, attack it. Over time, the new white blood cells say, hey, that's the same structure. Over here, it happens to be the islets in the pancreas.
So honestly,
because the body attacking itself, then we don't produce as much insulin. Diabetes.
Yeah, diabetes. So what's wild about it is it's really the body thinking it's doing something good for you.
Yeah.
It's the body thinking it's helping, and it's just attacking itself.
And I think that's why autoimmune disease is so crazy. And people say that some people, American Medical Association, says it's not a cure. Because like, what do? The body's attacking itself. We can't just build the immune system. And then if we lower the immune system too much, then all of a sudden you have a lowered immune system, you can die of something else, right? And so what do? Well, what you do is you find out what in the world caused the problem, get it out, quit taking it in, and then build the body up with all the nutrients, all the probiotics, everything you can, and do your best so the body will reset. In some cases, it's too late. I've known a lot of people that it's just been to others, though, completely reversed in different conditions because you took away the thing that the body is saying, hey, we have to attack this, we have to attack this. You're taking away that stimulus, right? And
so I want to go back really quick because I interrupted you. So the whole casein issue, the autoimmune disease is?
Type 1 diabetes.
Type 1 diabetes. And I think that's a real eye-opener for a lot of people. And what's wild is more and more often we are seeing people being diagnosed with type 1 diabetes older, in their early teens, later teens. I mean, that's wild.
Yeah, and then even older, later in life. And a lot of it due, again, genetically, how much can they handle, right? Or in that bucket. And that's a really good point because it is getting out of hand. We have a higher incidence of juvenile diabetes ever in the history of the world. Also, older people that it's just come on, later on. And hopefully it's starting to make sense to you that another graph for you. For those of you that don't believe this, you can Google this one because there's hundreds of studies showing what we're saying about casein. But another cool thing to look at is you look at the countries that drink the most processed milk and the rate of diabetes that are linear, and you can see it go up. So there's no question about this, truly. If anyone argues it, they're from the American Dairymen Association. So, and we're not against dairy, right? We're against processing.
Right.
I think that's the point, is it's
sure.
a processing is the key. So let's talk about the other diseases. Now that you understand this, I hope your mind's starting to work a little bit, right? And so what happens if people, the protein doesn't come from dairy, let's say it comes from meat, from like red meat and stuff like that.
Yeah, gout.
Yep, gout, absolutely.
Is that where you were going?
Yeah, that's really good. So our rheumatoid arthritis, another form of arthritis, right? So I think rheumatoid arthritis is the one that's really dedicated toward an autoimmune disease, but what Hilary's talking about is so exactly right. There are certain proteins that have purines in them, your red meat, right? Shellfish, right? And, so you have those types of proteins. And if your body can't break them down or you just don't break them down properly, then you get the uric acid, those crystals, right? And then now you have these uric acid crystals that flocculate to the furthest place away from the heart because they're heavy, to the big toe, right? But the same thing holds true with non-digestion of protein when it comes to rheumatoid arthritis. And it's the same level. You can look at uric acid levels and other factors there, different antibodies, but it comes back to, at some point, we abuse these proteins too much, and maybe that person's genetics, it wasn't that they maybe abused them more than others, it's just that they had a different level in that bucket, right? Yep. So we talked about the other one.
Undigested wheat or gluten for celiac.
Right. So wheat, barley, and rye are the ones that really contain the most gluten in them. Now gluten really gets a bad rap. Gluten's a protein.
Bad rap,
right? And you never heard of this disease, right, 30, 40 years ago at all, because we didn't grow the wheat like we do now, and we didn't have it be genetically modified like we do now.
That's why we push so hard for the ancient grains and getting your hands on those to cook and bake with.
Right, and you like one in particular, right, where you cook like pizzas and things like kamut, or the K, kamut, so great one with it. And so, right, undigested dairy, processed dairy, type 1 diabetes, undigested proteins and that, arthritis, right? Undigested wheat, celiac disease. Remember, so you get these proteins in, but they're broken down, not all the way. The body's attacking it. It happens to be that amino acid structure resembles different tissues, and that's why it's going after these different things, okay? So how about people that say, what about these immunizations and all these different things, and all of a sudden their kids or different people have come down with autoimmune disease, and now we're getting into a real crazy area here that you catch a lot of flack about, right? Because you're going against the zillion-dollar companies in the pharmaceutical industry. So I'll tread somewhat lightly, not really. The deal is this, is that viruses and most immunizations are proteins. And so if those resemble different tissues and that in the body, maybe brain tissue and things like that, they can attack them, again, based on a person's genetics. But Down syndrome and other problems can be traced back to them. And then all of a sudden you get this big cover-up and people scream and yell and they try to go after you. But the bottom line is what we're trying to say is proteins, digested all the way down to single, double, or triple amino acids, all the way down to single amino acids to make it simple, if left unchecked and they keep coming in the system, can cause autoimmune disease. And autoimmune disease is based on what structure that is. That's the main thing we're trying to say, right?
Yep.
And so then some of these amino acids can actually get into, or these groups of amino acids, peptides, can get into tissue. And if there are heavy metals involved, we talked about that other thing, like mercury and different things, and if they bind with them, then it can cause a lot of problems with the brain.
Yeah, like Alzheimer's.
Like Alzheimer's
Yeah.
and dementia. And so all of these things, I hope this big light bulb's coming off, is turning on, sorry, is that, wait a second, all this comes down to most of the time in this conversation is these proteins not completely broken down or heavy metals that we're coming across in the environment. Absolutely. That's exactly what we're saying.
Yeah, so even going further into what if proteins are close to muscle protein and can't be used properly? Then we're looking at fibromyalgia.
Fibromyalgia. And I remember way back when I first started NutriStrength and in the 90s and right into the early 2000s, we had some people come in and they had been diagnosed by a naturopath doctor with fibromyalgia. Their medical doctor still wouldn't admit say it's not a condition. And they were truly felt like they're going crazy because they're getting all this, like, am I crazy? Some doctors say this, some say this. And I said, well, no matter what, it's not going to hurt you to improve your diet, right? Start exercising and load the body with the protease and peptidase enzymes and see what happens. And this, multiple people, but one in particular, completely changed their life. Had multitudes of energy, that they had been in bed for hours and hours and hours every day, and a complete turnaround. And it was one of those things that was like, wow, we really understand how severe this is, but especially at the time, it happened real quick, and they're able to turn it around. Yeah. And so it's really cool that really happened. Cool. So what are the answers? The answers are eat more raw food.
Eat more raw food. Eat less processed food.
Big time.
Right? And take enzymes.
Take enzymes. And take enzymes when you eat cooked and processed food, right? Comes back to the athlete would always talk about that would call and get mad that it made them take so many enzymes. And I'm like, you don't have to take so many enzymes. Just eat more raw food. And
until we really get our diets where they need to be and really start controlling that aspect, then taking enzymes between foods so we can fix the issues that we have is a big. And I think that's really important is take your enzymes with your food, but take them in between to get in to maybe digest some of the things that are already more therapeutic
present.
Levels.
Absolutely. And so the things that we were talking about with the metals and that in the body are called metalloproteins, if you want to look it up. And those are the things that can cause these autoimmune diseases like fibromyalgia and some of the others that are out there. So I hope that makes sense to everyone. So let's maybe just kind of do a recap, about autoimmune disease.
Okay, autoimmune diseases, an illness that occurs when the body tissues are attacked by its own immune system. The immune system is a complex organization within the body that is designed normally to seek and destroy invaders of the body, including the infectious agents.
Right. And so when the body starts attacking itself, then all of a sudden we have that disease, but it's caused by an outside antigen that was brought in. So our best bet for fixing the problem, whether the body actually does it or not in every case, but your best chance is to get rid of the cause and determine what it is. And it's not that tough to figure out. If you have an autoimmune disease, like we said, just think about what it is, and you can shoot us a DM or something here, a message on YouTube, whatever, and we can help you with not. But just like we went through that list, go back and kind of listen to it about celiac disease.
Yeah, we're not
gluten,
trying
we all know
to
that,
help
things like that.
diagnose anybody.
No, we're trying to talk about, we're trying to talk about if you have a question about an autoimmune disease, you should be able to figure out what it was. So it's really easy with celiac. Everyone in the world knows, right? It's gluten, that type thing. I just don't think everyone knows that one of the major factors with type 1 diabetes is dairy, because you have large groups teaching and trying to, hide a lot of those things. So,
and before something actually becomes an autoimmune disease, maybe recognize some of the ways that you're starting to feel when you consume certain foods.
Absolutely, and I think that's the key, and that's let's kind of maybe finish with that, is living a fitness lifestyle. In other words, a lifestyle where you work to keep your body fat in check, that you working and you're eating healthy to a point where you're just having treats once in a while, and that. And usually when you have those treat foods, if it's really big, you're like, man, I felt like crap the next day, right? And so and you want to be in that place, though. You want to be where when there's things that came in that really you shouldn't do all the time, that you feel that difference. It's when you don't feel that difference immediately that's a problem, right?
Absolutely.
But the reason you want to get in that place in life is because of what you just mentioned, is then you're able to say, okay, here's the deal. I'm able to say, something's going on, I can feel it, I can sense it. What's changed in my lifestyle? Am I taking on a different job and I'm around different chemicals? Am I eating different foods? What's going on? I can fix it.
Right.
And we both had that issue. So just so everyone knows, kind of like a full disclosure thing, why this is so important to us is we both were diagnosed with autoimmune diseases. Like, I just realized that we both were. Hilary was diagnosed at one time with Hashimoto's, and we found out that it was due to these protein shots that she was taking. I don't know what you're doing.
Oh, we won't go into it.
Okay, and so she was taking this protein, but in it was a bunch of sucralose. Right, and sucralose was the trigger.
And the reason we realized sucralose was the trigger was because once I cut sucralose from the diet, everything improved.
Yeah, went away. Like the markers in the blood completely went away. We looked at the antibodies and that back to normal, which is really, really cool.
Really cool.
And in my case, I had been eating too much tuna and the mercury from it, and it got severe, blood work, everything, full diagnosis. And they said, nothing you can do about it. You're going to have to go on these crazy drugs the rest of your life, and you're going to be debilitated eventually and all that. And
diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis.
With rheumatoid arthritis, and we realized what it was. Got rid of that. Did some heavy cleansing. It took a while, right?
Yeah, it took a little bit.
Months. Yeah. 4 to 6 months, and we're able to eliminate that. And now blood work shows don't have it. So that doesn't happen every time. It's not. I'm just saying that. But the importance of living a lifestyle that you are like a fine-tuned engine, or say like a race car, they know when little things are off really quick with them.
And you can pinpoint it faster.
You can pinpoint it. So another reason to live that lifestyle, live the fitness lifestyle, so that you're able to pinpoint things before they become too drastic and there's a point of no return. So hope that was informative.
That's good.
On autoimmune disease. A little more serious tonight, but I think it's something that's just near and dear to our hearts, is the importance of getting this information out that most people don't talk about. It's getting to the cause of disease, and that's really what holistic health is about. So until next time, this is Miss Olympia, Hilary.
And this smart guy right here is Doug the Formulator.
Take care. Keep chewing.